Coming up on Network Africa, Libya sends nearly 250 undocumented migrants back to Niger and Chad. King Charles meets with Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu as COP28 climate summit opens in Dubai, UAE. Plus, humanitarian aid keeps arriving in the Gaza Strip with coordination with international organizations at the Rafah border in Egypt. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. 4 Moroccan migrants have died off Spain's southern coast near Cadiz, with 4 others being taken to hospital for severe hypothermia. Officials say the bodies of the 4 who apparently drowned were found near their boat that had been carrying 32 other migrants. 27 of the occupants were reportedly forced by the crew to jump off the boat into the sea, and 23 of them were rescued alive. Well, the police have now opened an inquiry into the incident. Spain is one of the main entry points for migrants departing illegally from North Africa into Europe, with tens of thousands of arrivals in the past year alone. In the meantime, Libyan authorities have deported 248 undocumented migrants to their home countries of Niger and Chad in a joint effort by rival administrations in the war-torn country. An official with Tripoli's government agency says clandestine migration and 120 Nigerians had left Libya for Niamey in coordination with the UN's International Organization for Migration. And in coordination with Libya's Eastern Base authorities, 128 migrants would be taken to the border with Chad. The North African country has also been a hub for tens of thousands of migrants seeking to reach Europe by sea every year. Away from migrant stories now, it's the first day of the Global Climate Summit, COP28, taking place in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. Britain's King Charles, in a first of a number of bilateral discussions with world leaders, has met with Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu. The king says he had been recovering from having a rather ancient birthday after the president asked how he was doing. The meeting begins a series of engagements during his 2-day trip to Dubai ahead of the summit. Well, King Charles will be making a speech on Friday, the first time he will deliver the opening address at the conference as king, having previously opened COP26 in Glasgow in 2021 and COP21 in Paris in 2015. Meanwhile, at the start of the summit, the head of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, says this year will be the hottest year in human history, as records show we are living through climate collapse in real time, imploring the international community to act and deliver on climate commitments. He said the record should send shivers down the spines of the world leaders. Let's now hear a track from the COP28 president in Dubai.
Let history reflect the fact that this is the presidency that made a bold choice to proactively engage with oil and gas companies. We had many hard discussions. Let me tell you, that wasn't easy. But today, many of these companies are committing to zero methane emissions by 2030 for the first time. And now many national oil companies have adopted net zero 2050 targets for the first time.
Building on previous COPs, COP27 succeeded in delivering a number of much needed and long awaited elements to the global climate agenda. Together for implementation was not just a slogan at COP27, but rather a timely call to move from setting rules, frameworks, and commitments to a clear focus on the tangible implementation of these commitments on the ground.
Either we can note the lack of progress, tweaking our current best practices, and encourage ourselves to do more at some other point in time. Or we decide At what point we'll have made everyone on the planet safe and resilient. We decide to fund this transition properly, including the response to loss and damage. And we decide to commit to a new energy system.
Well, ahead of Thursday's opening, the President of the United Nations General Assembly, Dennis Francis, highlighted the urgency of funding arrangements for landlocked and island nations to have a chance at fighting the climate crisis. He also mentioned the importance of keeping the goal of 1.5 degrees for the rise of global temperature.
The need to conclude work and operationalize the funds and funding arrangements for loss and damage. Least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island developing states need these resources to reconcile the impacts of climate change on their communities. 2. The need to support the COP28 presidency's bid to triple renewable energy capacity. This is the only sure way to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and keep 1.5 degrees alive. 3. The need to urgently and dramatically scale up support for adaptation, including delivering on a global goal on adaptation and exponentially driving up finances. And 4, finally, but most importantly, the need for unity and solidarity. The international community must demonstrate to the people of the world that we can deliver. We need a win, and COP28 can be that win.
Well, joining us now is Channels Television's environmental correspondent, Ayola Kasim, who is in Dubai covering the summit. Hello, Ayola. Good to have you.
Hello, how are you doing today?
Well, talk to us about the opening speech at today's COP28 summit. We heard from the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres saying this year will be the hottest year in human history.
Yes, we've been talking about that for the last 3-4 weeks now. After that, in 3 months, because Cuba and now we're here record. And the focus here is we have to do something about
Ayola, I'm afraid we'll have to come back to you. We apologize for that audio issue. But in the meantime, while we're trying to reconnect, a Gambian man in Germany has been sentenced to life for his role in an assassination squad that worked on behalf of the Gambia's former president, Yahya Jammeh. The man, identified as Bai El, worked as a driver for the squad known as the Junglers. He was found guilty of crimes against humanity, murder, and attempted murder. In 2019, during hearings of Gambia's Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRRC, 3 other members of the Junglers accused Mr. Jammeh of ordering numerous murders, including the notorious 2013 killings of 2 U.S. Gambian businessmen and veteran local journalist Dada Haidara. Among the crimes that Bai El was accused of was helping to stop Haidara's car before he was killed and driving one of the assassins away. Rights group Human Rights Watch says Bai El's trial was able to take place in Germany as it recognizes universal jurisdiction for serious crimes wherever they were committed. Well, as the Democratic Republic of Congo is set to hold its presidential and parliamentary elections in December, the government has expressed regret at the European Union's decision to withdraw its electoral observation mission from the country. The EU said it withdrew its election observation team after it failed to obtain the necessary authorization to deploy essential communication equipment such as satellite telephones and internet kits. The cancellation of the observer mission came as discussions on the EU mission deployment were ongoing. In a statement, the government said it is committed to successfully holding its elections with transparency, inclusiveness and freedom, and would also welcome all observer missions wishing to work in accordance with the law and regulations of DR Congo. 23 candidates are running for president amid a tense political climate, and between 80 to 100 EU observers were due to be deployed to monitor the 20th December general elections. Now we have Ayola Kassim, our environment correspondent in Dubai, covering the COP28 summit. Hello, Ayola. I was asking you earlier on about, the opening speech at the start of the summit today.
Yes, I actually said that. Okay, that came up with the year being the hottest on record because September was the hottest month, followed by October. So officially, this year is the hottest year on record and is a call to action. That's what we've been having here today. People need to come together. We need to do something, and this is the time to do that. That's what the call from the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was telling the plenary to this afternoon, early this afternoon, that we need to do something and we need to do it fast.
So what are leaders and climate change activists who are in attendance, especially African leaders looking to achieve from this summit? We know recently Kenya, Ethiopia and Somalia in the Horn of Africa have been, suffering from devastating floods. So what are individual countries, especially from Africa, looking to achieve?
Okay. So the effect of that, and they say it is being driven by climate change, is what we call El Nino. So it's coming back, and then so that's why we have that reaction in that region of Africa. And then some of the conversation is moving towards the Loss and Damage Fund, which was created last year in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. So this year is to finalize the operationalization of that fund, and countries like that, like Somalia, the country on the Horn of Africa, they are actually pushing, and many other vulnerable countries as well, how we are going to make this fund work. There have been like 5 meetings before this meeting we are having here on Loss and Damage Fund, but not concrete. Some will say not concrete. Like, where is it going to be domiciled? The conclusion at the end of the day is World Bank, and that is generating some controversy here because some people would rather have it a separate entity from the United Nations body. So that is going on now, and many countries are also, hoping that the promise of funds, right, that is going to come to fruition during this COP. By the way, we're having a global stocktake, and the global stocktake is the Paris Agreement. How far we've gone with that. So this is the first time we are actually looking at it's like a result vote. What are we doing? How have we fared so far since we agreed Paris Agreement? That's what is going on here.
And our home country, Nigeria, it's no stranger to the effects of climate change. Also, how are Nigerian officials, how is Nigeria hoping to benefit from the conference?
All right. We are coming here to seek funding. I spoke to the chairperson of the Nigerian Climate Change Council, and just said to me, we are looking for funds to fund our energy transition plan. That's what we are seeking. The deals that they'll be looking at today, during the next 2 weeks here at the COP, is basically how we're going to fund process the transition plan. Remember, Nigeria is one of the countries that are being powered by fossil fuels. So we are one of the countries being, in some ways, being accused of making deals fossil fuel. Saudi Arabia was accused. It's one of the scandals leading up to this conference. Also, the president of COP28 is being said to make deals with oil and gas companies. And then the chairperson of the Nigerian Climate Change Council said to me, we can't leave them out of the room. It's what specifically they said. The saying in Nigeria is, if you can't cut someone's hair, behind their back. So like going forward for us to achieve something positive, we need to bring these people in so that we can talk about how we're going to make something positive out of it. So in the long run, hopefully, Nigeria is going to go home with some money that will help us transition positively.
Indeed, and the conversations continue into tomorrow and even the next. Thank you so much, Ayola, our environment correspondent in Dubai. Thank you. We'll take a break now on Network Africa. Still ahead, a 70-year-old Ugandan woman is said to have given birth to twins, becoming the oldest woman in Africa to give birth, according to the hospital where she had the baby. For more details after the break, please join me. Welcome back to the program. In South Sudan, livestock is a key livelihood for pastoralists, but their livelihood that is threatened by conflicts due to competition for scarce resources and climate change. Well, faced with water shortages and crop failures, South Sudanese farmers and pastoralists suffer from low production, low incomes, and insufficient assets to survive. Some 7.8 million people, almost two-thirds of the country's population, are acutely food insecure. But with support from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN through funding from the Africa Development Bank and also in partnership with the government of South Sudan, they've excavated the 30,000 M3 reservoir and providing a solar-powered water pump to help pastoralists with their water shortages. They've also been helping with vaccination for the livestock.
The impact of the vaccination now, you can see the health of our livestock. As you can see the small ruminants there, you can see the health, they are looking fine, they look health. Even our livestock, our cattle here, they are a bit better because of effective of vaccination. Without vaccination, they would have been dying. And this the main concern of this community, the main problem here.
This is a project which covers the regional, the Horn of Africa countries, which covers the resilience and it's focusing on semi-arid areas of this region. So it covers South Sudan, Djibouti, Kenya, and Ethiopia. So that project in Kapweta is a South Sudan component, which basically food security and other related activities.
One of the main challenges currently is the dire food insecurity situation. In this country, we still have over 70% of people who at one time or the other are not sure where they're going to get their next meal. The production levels are low, and the lack of peace due to the fighting that has taken place, the country is yet to fully recover. So that food insecurity is a big challenge. Secondly, with the global challenge of climate change, it has not been spared. And so the country finds itself in this double challenge and sometimes even triple challenge with floods, with dry conditions.
Two Russian hostages have arrived in Rafah, Egypt, on the final day of a two-day extension of a truce in the Gaza war. The hostages are among the 240 people seized by Hamas gunmen during a rampage into southern Israel in October. So far, Gaza militants have freed 60 Israeli women and children from among 240 hostages under the deal that secured the war's first truce. The initial 4-day truce was extended by 48 hours from Tuesday, and Israel says it is willing to prolong it as long as Hamas frees 10 hostages a day. Well, trucks with life-saving humanitarian aid have kept arriving in the Gaza Strip from Egypt through the Rafah border crossing as the initial 4-day truce between Israel and Hamas was extended. Well, a convoy of 50 trucks have been lining up at the Rafah border waiting to enter the Gaza Strip. Well, these trucks, escorted by the staff from the Palestinian Red Crescent Society and the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine in the Near East, were heading into northern Gaza. Since last week, more humanitarian aid has been allowed into the Palestinian enclave after 48 days of Israeli siege and airstrikes on Gaza. But for the Gazan residents, the amount of the humanitarian aid which has arrived is far from adequate. A new UNAIDS report, Let Communities Lead, shows that AIDS can be ended as a public health threat by 2030, but only if communities on the front lines get the full support they need from governments and donors. Well, this is coming ahead of World AIDS Day, celebrated every December 1st, to call to action and urge governments across the world to unleash the power of grassroots communities across the world to lead the fight to end AIDS.
Every single minute, a life is lost to AIDS. Every week, 4,000 adolescent girls and young women are newly infected by HIV. And still, 9.2 million people around the world that are living with HIV do not have access to life-saving treatment. It's the communities that know best. They know how to design, how to implement, how to monitor HIV programs and strategies to reach the people most in need. And it is the communities that will be the ones that sustain the HIV response into the future. There's no doubt that community leadership builds stronger and healthier societies. And again, that is why this World AIDS Day, it's not a moment to only just honor community leadership, it's also a moment for us to call to action, to governments to fully support communities, to organizations to fully support the life-saving work, and to remove the barriers that prohibit the way that communities can lead.
Britain's King Charles III has already turned 75 on the 14th of November, and celebrations have held across Britain to mark the monarch's birthday. But in Lagos, the British Deputy High Commission marked the occasion the first time in 72 years.
It was an unusual occasion, one the Deputy High Commission had probably never seen since it was established in Nigeria. For the first time in 72 years, they were hosting a king's birthday party, and not a queen's birthday party like they would normally do. The Deputy High Commissioner, John Baxter, welcomed guests to the occasion. The atmosphere reminiscent of a movie premiere, and people from all walks of life, including celebrities, captains of industry, and the press.
It is a special treat tonight to host this party for His Majesty King Charles III, particularly here in Lagos, because he's a man who is known to enjoy art and to appreciate dancing. And who can forget Tiwa Savage performing at his coronation concert earlier in the year? So what better place to celebrate his birthday than here in Lagos, the cultural capital of Nigeria. But I would also, and mostly, like to thank all of you for attending. You represent the breadth and the depth of the UK-Nigeria relationship across so many sectors, with so many family links, through so much shared history and so many shared values. And that is why we're here tonight.
Representing the Lagos State Government was the Secretary to the State Government, Abimbola Saludeen, who highlighted the special relationship between Lagos and the UK, reflected in the just concluded Lord Mayor's show in London.
It is a great privilege and honor to join distinguished guests at this reception organized to celebrate the birthday of His Majesty King Charles III. This occasion presents an opportunity to felicitate with the royal family, the government and the people of the United Kingdom, and for our two countries, and Lagos State in particular, to continue to nurture our existing friendly and mutually beneficial relationship. Just about a week ago, I led a delegation from our state to the Lord Mayor's show in London. During that visit, we had fruitful engagements that would further open investment and business opportunities between Lagos and the business community in the United Kingdom. On this note, and on behalf of the government and the good people of Lagos State, I felicitate with His Royal Majesty King Charles III and wish him many more years of good health and remarkable impact on the throne.
A lovely cake was cut in the King's honor, after which was a fashion show reflecting the theme for the night on recyclables. This is King Charles I's birthday as monarch. Many raise their glasses in a toast to his good health and well-being for many more.
A 70-year-old Ugandan woman has just given birth to twins after becoming pregnant through IVF treatment, becoming the oldest woman in Africa to give birth, according to the hospital where she had the babies. The Women's Hospital International and Fertility Center in Kampala said Safina Namukwaya delivered a boy and a girl. Well, congratulations to her. And that's it on the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.